Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something that literally keeps e-commerce execs up at night, recovering lost revenue. If you've ever stared at your analytics and completely agonized over those sales that just slip through your fingers right at the finish line, well, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to break down exactly how to use a highly structured, data-driven banner retargeting system to boost your checkout conversions and totally transform your digital advertising approach. All right, let's dive right in.
Think about it for a second. What actually happens to those customers who walk away at the very final step? Traditionally, an abandoned checkout is just written off as a lost cause, right? A total failure in the user journey. But what if we completely reframe that? An abandoned cart really isn't the end of the line at all. It's honestly just a paused conversation. It is an interaction absolutely brimming with potential, provided you know exactly how to restart that dialogue.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by unpacking the cart abandonment crisis, move right into the banner retargeting solution, decode the behavioral triggers, look at the specific messages that drive action, and then wrap it all up with measuring campaign success.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the cart abandonment crisis.
Picture this concept as the ultimate villain in our story, decision decay. Why do users abandon their carts when they're literally one click away? It's almost never a sudden dislike of your product. It's simply the loss of purchase intent over time, usually thanks to everyday distractions. You know how it goes. A new tab gets opened to check a competitor's price, a text message pops up, maybe the dog starts barking. And just like that, the cognitive momentum is completely broken. And the longer they're away, the further that buying intent decays. Moving right along to Section 2, the banner retargeting solution. So if decision decay is the villain, banner retargeting steps in as the hero. It essentially builds a completely new customer journey. It starts with step 1, purchase intent, where the user clearly shows they want to buy. Then, unfortunately, comes step 2, the dreaded checkout exit. But this is exactly where the system springs into action. Step 3 is automated ad delivery. Targeted visual banners start appearing across the display networks, content feeds, or apps that the user visits next. This actively fights off that distraction, leading straight to step 4, restored intent. The system practically captures that abandoned cart and gently guides the customer right back to the checkout environment, keeping the whole conversation alive.
The psychology behind this repeated exposure is absolutely fascinating. By keeping your brand and that specific product highly visible in the user's decision environment, you're doing two massive things. First, you're restoring product memory, and second, you're reducing the cognitive distance between their initial spark of interest and the final purchase. This kind of familiarity builds serious trust and dramatically lowers their perceived risk, especially considering they've already been through your payment stages once before.
All right, let's get into the mechanics in Section 3, decoding behavioral triggers.
Look, not all abandoned sessions are created equal. You've got your high-intent users. These are the folks who generated checkout page exits or added items to their cart without buying. Now, contrast them with low-intent users. Their actions are mostly just limited to product page views or early top-of-funnel browsing. You simply cannot treat these two audiences the same way. The tracking system actually relies on these specific signals to dynamically segment your users, meaning a highly tailored approach is an absolute must if you want the campaign to work. If we look at it on a granular level, the system is processing a whole hierarchy of behavioral signals. Actions like product page views, cart additions, and checkout page exits. Those carry a ton of weight. But it also looks closely at repeated browsing sessions, which is a massive indicator of strong evaluation and comparison behavior. Through these behavioral tracking models, the system processes all these actions, assigns intent scores, and then categorizes those users into the perfect retargeting pools. And here's one of the coolest signals, time-delayed inactivity. When a user pauses at the cart, the system doesn't just sit around waiting for them to close the browser. It acts instantly. Automated banners are deployed right then and there to re-engage their attention. This rapid-fire response is completely focused on maintaining the continuity of their purchase intent before that decision decay we talked about truly has a chance to set in.
Which brings us to Section 4, messages that drive action.
Let's talk about scarcity cues for a second because they are a remarkably powerful tool. We're talking about urgency-based stock notifications. When a user repeatedly sees the exact same product, but now with messaging hinting at limited availability, the perceived value of that item actually goes up in their mind. It creates this very real-time sensitive decision pressure. Good old urgency directly combats delay-based abandonment, completely accelerating their behavior to just click and get the transaction done. It's all about making sure targeted copy breaks down very specific psychological barriers.
Think about price stability messages. They completely solve the fear of sudden price hikes, which instantly eliminates a lot of hesitation. Availability alerts tackle that delay-based hesitation, creating the exact urgency we just discussed. And then you have delivery assurances. Logistical uncertainty is a massive conversion killer online, right? But by providing crystal clear shipping timelines, you're giving the user the logistical confidence they need to finally pull the trigger and finish checking out.
But how do you make sure the right message is actually landing with the right person? That's where customer segmentation takes over. The system divides your users by behavior, intent, engagement level, and even purchase history. This setup guarantees that a super high-intent user, like someone who bailed right at the credit card screen, gets a very direct, strong checkout reminder. Meanwhile, a lower-intent browser gets a much softer product re-engagement banner. It's all about perfectly aligning the intensity of the message with the exact stage of that user's buying journey.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, measuring campaign success. You simply cannot measure the success of a system like this with just a single KPI. It takes a truly holistic ecosystem of metrics. Sure, you have to look at conversion rate improvement and cart abandonment reduction to prove the recovery is actually happening. But you also need to keep a close eye on the click-through rate to evaluate your engagement, the return visitor frequency to test brand recall, and the time to purchase decrease to see exactly how effectively your banners are speeding up those decisions. The highest performing systems always maintain balanced improvements across every single one of these indicators. However, if there is one ultimate executive metric that rules them all, it's definitely revenue per user. This evaluates the pure financial impact across your exposed audiences. By comparing the groups who saw your banners to the ones who didn't, you can connect this behavioral recovery directly to real, hard monetary outcomes. This right here is the definitive proof of a successful retargeting funnel. It shows you exactly how well your banners are converting raw intent into cold, hard cash. So when you put it all together, a complete checkout recovery system is way more than just throwing ads at a wall and hoping they stick. It actively tracks very specific behavioral signals to assign intent. It dynamically deploys advanced audience segmentation. It delivers incredibly personalized, barrier-breaking messaging. And it just relentlessly measures performance metrics. These core components take simple display ads and transform them into a highly structured, fully automated checkout recovery machine.
There is a massive takeaway from the source material that we really need to highlight. A structured retargeting system absolutely supports long-term e-commerce growth. This is not just some short-term band-aid you slap on to fix a few lost sales for a month. When you integrate it correctly, it becomes a foundational pillar for permanently scaling your revenue and maintaining a truly dominant presence in your customers' decision environments. So I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. Is your current e-commerce ecosystem actively recovering abandoned checkouts, or are you literally just watching them walk away? It might be time to take a hard look at your own systems and make absolutely sure you aren't leaving massive amounts of revenue on the table. If you're looking to dive even deeper into building out these kinds of frameworks, definitely go explore more e-commerce advertising insights on Times Intelligence. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, here's to maximizing your conversions. See you next time.